up, y'all? Kofi Kingston here, and I would love to have a drink with Wrestling on the Rocks, depending on what that drink is, preferably non-alcoholic, you know?
How's it going, Healthy Warrior Damon?
Soda.
I would love to have a drink with Wrestling on the Rocks.
Maple syrup.
Fella.
I would never have a drink with Wrestling on the Rocks.
Welcome to another Wrestling on the Rocks. I am at Ref Marsh. We are at WOTR the show. With me today, per usual on a Wednesday, we got at Beard Sports, the Sports Beard, right here. Go ahead and say hello, man.
Hey.
And special guest referee. I'm kidding. JustinTime 211. JustinTime's coming through. How you doing, Justin?
Ding, ding, ding. Since you're the ref, but I'll do the bell this time.
Yeah. Ring the bell.
Ring the bell. Ring the bell. I'm Dario Cueto.
Yeah. Yeah. As soon as I knew we were going to need someone to chime in here this week, and I knew it was going to be probably an earlier show, I immediately said, can't be Bishop. Let's get Justin.
Sorry, Bishop.
That's right. Bishop from at TW Takes, Terrible Wrestling Takes podcast. This is a direct shot at you, man. Direct fire.
Shots fired.
Yeah, I got nothing against you, Bishop, but I don't want to say anything bad.
No, he's a good dude. Friend of the show. But
Yeah.
I am happy to have you guys both on today to have a drink with me. Let's start with something simple, and then we'll get into it. Let's do a little what's in your glass.
You go first.
Yeah, Justin, you got to go first.
Okay, well, got a big cold glass of Mountain Dew.
Ooh. Sounds delicious. Are they out of the watermelon Mountain Dews in your area?
They actually don't sell them anymore. It's disappointing.
I never had it.
I feel like Mountain Dew's constantly doing that, coming out with new variations of their Mountain Dew that are a huge hit every time, and then they go, okay, that's enough of that.
They came out with a gingerbread one recently, and it's very strange.
I can't believe you tried it.
I did. It tastes like, apparently it tastes like ribbon candy.
It sounds fucking awful. Quite frankly.
I
can't imagine a good version of that.
What fucking ad exec was like?
But it's got ribbon candy taste, but it's also got like a big red kind of flavor, and it's weird.
So you said like peppermint. It tastes like peppermint.
Yeah, like cinnamon and stuff. It's weird.
Okay.
That is.
If you say ribbon candy, I'm thinking peppermint. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna go. I have Rockstar Recovery and a Yeti. So I had some Hashade. I'm good. that's like half a bottle of whiskey.
Is the Recovery specific to like why? What's the branding?
It doesn't have. It's Rockstar.
Yeah, but it's called Recovery. You said, yeah.
Yeah. Here, if you want to see the glass.
Yeah. What's the deal with it?
It's just a juice, really. It's an orange flavor, and it has like 25 calories, and it's just got like calcium, potassium, niacin, vitamin B. Probably none of that shit is any good for you, but and it's like a cup of. It's got electrolytes and taurine and.
So the idea is it's like a hangover cure, probably. Is the idea.
Yeah, except for I didn't drink enough to need a hangover. It's just something I like in the morning because it's like hydrating and it's like a cup of coffee, but it's not a cup of coffee. So I'm kind of weaning myself off of caffeine, honestly, and not. I went a long time without having soda and stuff, and that really helped me keep weight down. And now I can't seem to lose a single pound of weight. So, that's why I'm doing it.
Right.
But I have like high blood.
I don't think that you need to be hungover to have it. I think that was just the idea. I was trying to figure out why it was called Recovery. I think that's the marketing idea, is the hangover recovery. But like you said, it's good for a lot of other things. It's
good. It's definitely for hydrating. And
if you're, it sounds like it's like a Gatorade kind of thing.
Yeah, in a can. Yeah. Except for this isn't polluting the ocean because I crush it and recycle it. But I just I don't know, man. I had a friend that worked at the town pump. That's literally what they call them in Montana. And they had like Mountain Dew slushies on. And this is before like Code Red or anything. There was just Mountain Dew flavored Mountain Dew when I was in high school. I would drink those Mountain Dew slushies, which were like the probably the most caffeinated thing. And I think I kind of burned myself out of them when I was a kid. I just had so much. So
yeah, I did the same thing. I worked for Discovery Zone back in the day. It was one of the last ever Discovery Zones. It was called Kids Zone, and we had Mountain Dew slush, and I had one every single day I went into work.
Dude, you know, we probably work next to each other because you're talking about the Discovery Zone in the Northway Mall here in Anchorage.
Yeah.
So I worked at the Suncoast in the Northway Mall.
Oh, I'm sure I saw you.
Oh, I probably sold you a movie.
Yeah, I went to Suncoast a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you?
You probably sold me some Britney Spears CDs.
I also worked at the Sam Goody in the mall too. Yeah. I was the assistant manager there. So when Justin talks about retail, I know about working retail, bro. I worked retail. So I got a part-time job when I was still active duty. So like 98 or 99, I started working at the Northway Mall. And I ended up becoming full-time there. When did you work there? In like 2000. In fact, I left in 2001 to take a job working for an electrical parts place.
Well, so I know I was working there right out of high school, so it would have been 202 at the very least, if not 201. Before I left, I might have started there. But I can also say that for the couple years before then, I was going to that mall all the time because it was within walking distance.
Yeah, so I was out of there by 2001.
Yeah.
But you know, Brady, who was my best man, managed the Suncoast at Northway until basically the Suncoast at Northway. I think they moved him to Diamond, but that was kind of like that was when they knew the writing on the wall was happening with those. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you here in Alaska, just because that, like how costly the internet can be for certain people and stuff like that. There's still a market for a store like that here. Someone could make a lot of money. It could be me because I have like 4,000 freaking movies on DVD. So, all right. And then when Brady died, I inherited his library. So.
Oh, that's kind of neat. I mean, it's sad, but kind of neat. I'm having a truly extra hard cider, a little something refreshing for the afternoon drink. But I'm having it in my Stone Cold koozie, so you know.
Nice.
It'll
I gotta find that beer. I'm gonna try to get that beer and try it.
I want to try that IPA so bad.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But for Thanksgiving, I was able to have some because I was out in San Diego seeing my grandparents, and they sell it in San Diego. One of the few places in San Diego that sells it is the liquor store that is 2 blocks from my grandparents' house. So every time I go out there, I try and swing by there and grab at least a 4-pack.
Hold on. El Segundo Brewing Company is in San Diego. Are they not?
I thought they were out of... are they not out of...
Well, El Segundo, but I believe they're out of San Diego.
I thought they were like Vegas or something.
Literally visit the brewing place when you go see your parents.
They're not all over the place out there, though. Because I've been to some places.
You could visit where they make the El Segundo Stone Cold IPA, Broken Skull IPA. You could actually visit the brewery. I believe it is there.
Go find out. Go find out on the map.
I'm looking it up right now.
Look it up. We need to know.
Yeah, I believe.
But also, for Thanksgiving weekend, a lot of stuff was not open, so it may not have been the trip to do it. However, I got more trips planned. We can definitely go back.
Well, you're not far from San Diego, right? Isn't it just a couple hours?
Yeah, it's just a little drive. I mean, I'm not going to drive there and back the same day, but either way, guys, let's get into it a little bit. We haven't talked since Survivor Series watch-along.
Wow.
Yeah, we haven't been on. We did it. We did the week off for Thanksgiving. There was a possibility that I was going to do a Thanksgiving episode with my brother. He did not make it out to San Diego as well, so it didn't happen. So yeah, we're still reeling off of what happened at Survivor Series and the aftermath. Justin, what did you think of Survivor Series overall?
To be honest with you, for me, it was probably one of the more boring shows to me. I did not really enjoy it. I think the main event really, to me, was the only match I really enjoyed out of the entire show.
Right,
The rest just did nothing for me.
I'm kicking you off right now. I thought it was fantastic. I thought a lot of great matches with top talent. It's like I've been saying for a while. I think that as much as people want to pretend that Royal Rumble is the casual fan pay-per-view or that WrestleMania is for the casual fan, I don't think that's true at all. I think Survivor Series is the single casual fan-based pay-per-view. Royal Rumble and WrestleMania have elements to draw in a casual fan and a mainstream audience. That's why there's always celebrities in WrestleMania, because they want the viewership to be boosted by it. But WrestleMania is a payoff of major storylines throughout the entire year. And Royal Rumble, all the things that you think of as being enjoyable in the Royal Rumble as a casual fan is actually a hardcore fan perspective, because it's always like, oh, you never know who's going to be in the Rumble. Well, if you don't watch regularly, you don't know if that person's not been there regularly. So Carlito showing up to a non-hardcore fan, they didn't know that he hadn't been there in years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Survivor Series is literally champion versus champion. Here's our top talent having top tier matches for almost no reason at all. Just look at it and enjoy it, you know?
Well, we watched it together, so I don't want to talk about it because we watched it together.
We're not going to break it down. I was just asking how Justin liked it.
Yeah. No, I'm really interested to hear what he has to say about it. I'll tell you, for me, just like, I enjoyed it because we watched it together. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that part of it. It was more enjoyable. One, because then it's like you're there with me. Mm-hmm. It would have been, the only thing that would have made it cooler is if you were in my living room.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and then I can just bounce stuff off of you. And then, you know what Ref Marsh does really well, Justin, I feel, and it's like his superpower, is he's super positive. And he always finds a lot of good in the stuff that we're watching. And I think it's only human to trend negative and look at what you didn't like. I think we do it so much now in society that we kind of forget why we're watching what we're watching. So I love that about his my dogs. I'm so sorry. Hey, gentle. You better be being gentle, guys. Okay, good boys. Anyway, so sorry. We had a thing the other day and it stressed me out. So when my dogs fight with each other, it's not good. But they're just playing and they're being funny. They're being okay. I'm not worried. So yeah, I just love that aspect about being a friend with him. And now that we share, kind of the wrestling fandom as a commonality, I don't feel like I have to agree with everything he has to say, but like, I will say, if you find yourself complaining about the stuff you're watching more than you actually watch it, it may not be worth watching anymore. For you, it might be worth going on to something else. Just anyway, I see a lot of people complain, having become. I want to tell Ref Marsh, we keep saying we're part of the IWC, but I feel like we're the anti-IWC because we don't really trend negative. I think if we were super negative, we probably have 75 times the followers, right? It's just what sells now. But I'll tell you what, for me, it's not what makes a healthy life. So I just feel like if I would, it's okay to rant or complain about something that you don't like and that you're passionate about because you want to see it get better or this, that, or the other. That I'm not trying to take away. I think healthy discord is good. The key word there being healthy, again, like you said, and each individual person has to make that decision for themselves. Like, am I letting this is this a positive distraction, or is this starting to feel like work, or is this not fun, or yada, yada, yada. And I don't know. Ref Marsh knows about me. For you, I don't know how aware, but I'm a big Pat McAfee fan, and Pat's a really positive guy. And I like that about Pat. Like, you can skew negative, and he just does not want to do that. And And I also what I love about him is that he knows he has it real good because he grew up poor and he wasn't wealthy. And he knows his life is real great and he appreciates it and he talks about it. And that's anytime I can throw in Pat McAfee on our show, I'm always going to talk about him because I believe in the guy so much. He kind of helps me get me going, you know, like, and really getting engaged in this sort of thing. So I just like, for me, I bring in a new perspective, like a new fan's perspective, even though I'm an old guy and I did watch like Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant and Randy Macho Man Savage and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and one of my faves, Roddy Piper. I mean, he's in one of the best movies of all time too. John Carpenter, They Live, greatest movie ever. And probably wouldn't you say, Ref Marsh, one of the greatest one-liners ever in a movie? Oh, yeah. I'm here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum. Like, oh, yeah. All out of bubblegum. There are so few one-liners that are that good in movies, you know. And it's
that feels like a Roddy thing too. I feel like Roddy showed up with that in his pocket. You know what I mean? I feel like no one wrote that for him. I don't know if that's true or not, but it feels like something he would say.
Watch that A&E documentary about Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
It's on Hulu. If you don't get Hulu, I'll figure out a way that you can watch my Hulu. He talks about it, and the only reason I say watch it is because I don't remember specifically what he said. I do believe they wrote it, or or like you said, he came up with it. It was like a wrestling quip, like it was something he said. So I think you might be right, but I don't want to say yay or nay because I just can't remember.
Yeah, just feels that way. But
yeah, no, I think you could be correct, but again, I don't want to say watch it's free on Hulu. So I watched the one on him. It was really good. And what was really tough is I'm actually a big fan of Rich Eisen too. His last kind of interview was on Rich Eisen, and whatever was ailing him, was like catching up to him, and he was like, I remember watching that interview being like, man, he's kind of in bad shape right there. And Rich was like an awesome, these guys have been doing it for years, that interviewing these people are like masters of their craft. He knew he didn't have a human being by him. And so he just, he didn't make him look bad, and just was a really, if you're going to go down, it was an unfortunate thing. The only thing I could I could ever describe, I don't know if you remember a few years back, if you're an MMA guy, Chuck Liddell was on like some local Texas thing, and he was on like some painkillers, or he was going through a rough patch, and he was kind of out of it. And it was sort of like that, except for Roddy was not a drug abuser or anything like that. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's get back on track here. So, Survivor Series, I do want to mention at least briefly something that notable happened there. Both Natty and Randy Orton set Guinness records for most pay-per-views appearances. So Randy Orton had 177, which was originally held by Kane at 176. So he broke that, Randy Orton did. And Natalya got 68 female pay-per-view appearances. Natalya Neidhart.
Okay.
Yeah,
I wrote down the Randy Orton thing to talk about that, and then it's not here, so that's funny. That's incredible.
But they both,
that's incredible. Don't we always talk about Randy Orton being kind of like that stable vet? He's taken over for the Undertaker, and he's been to more pay-per-views than the Undertaker.
And Kane, because Kane was seen that way for a long time, because Undertaker became a little bit more of even in the last number of years, he was only showing up a couple of times, where Kane was still regular up until he wasn't regular. You know what I mean? Like, he was regular for a long, long time when Undertaker had already become
the mayor of that Tennessee town or whatever.
Well, there was a short period of time where he was mayor and full-time on the roster.
I believe he is still a mayor. I believe he's still the mayor. I think
he is, but he's not full-time, is what I was saying. That there was a short stint where he was mayor and full-time, where he was still showing up every week on Raw.
Oh, yeah. He's not wrestling anymore, though. Is he? Kane retired, did he not? Or is he like...
I don't think he had a proper retirement, but I think that I don't think he's wrestling. What were you going to say, Justin?
I think he has, kind of like silently retired. I think it was.
Yeah, he's kind of successful in his second career too. Like it seems like he could probably run for governor of Tennessee or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
seems well liked by his constituents. He seems like so. Like I mean, I don't know anything about the guy's I don't care. Like I don't live in Tennessee, so
yeah.
I saw. I don't know if you saw. Did you want to keep talking about?
He does, just real quick, on Kane, he does still make signing appearances. He made an appearance this past weekend as Kane, and he's also co-running a wrestling training school out in Knoxville. The JPGW or something like that. It's like it's the Tom Pritchard and Glenn Jacobs wrestling school, so a wrestling academy. So just kind of cool that he's able to be a mayor and balance those other things. Is like, just goes to show you that the level of work ethic those guys had to be on the top in the WWE spills out into the after WWE time, and they just
I don't think there is such thing as a successful lazy wrestler. I mean, it just feels like that job is all about hustle. Like I always kind of feel like a lazy piece of shit when I'm hearing about the, you know, how these wrestlers came up and what they were living off of, especially like the Stone Cold era, the Attitude Era guys that were, you know, I mean, it's a lot better now because there's more, you know, there's a bigger fan base, right? There's you know, there's more regional shows. There's, you know, it's a much bigger, you have more than one national product, right? So, I mean, that hasn't been the case always either. So,
yeah, I mean, and then you go back, to go back to Roddy Piper. There was some magazine thing I had seen once where he had gotten the most matches in a year, and it was like 500 something. He had done no less than like 2 matches a day, almost, and it was insane.
That's insanity. That, you know, that means like on one weekend he wrestled like 10 or 15 times.
Yeah,
and those were back and he's playing the heel, and he's playing it like no one ever has played it since, and he's getting stabbed by people because they, you know, there are chuckleheads that thought it was like not scripted, you know. And again, like I understand there was a code too. Like I think it helped the sport when they came out and said, yeah, it's not this, it's this. But they're still getting, you know, that guy who slapped John Stossel, you know, that's how they slap. I mean, when you hear those thumps in the ring, like I almost am like, dude, just punch me. I'd rather get punched than slapped across the chest. Like it's like a whip for some of them guys. Randy Orton, like if he smacked me in the chest, I would be on my ass. Yeah. I would probably be like, man, why did you just punch me in the face? I would have much rather that. You know? Like seriously, like I'll take a punch to the face. Like I don't know, man. Anyway, you know, Ref Marsh and I talk about this all the time. Like Orton being the elder statesman, pretty incredible.
I do think going to the kayfabe concept you threw out there, I do think the breaking down of kayfabe, although there's still a level of kayfabe, and if you listen to Sam Roberts, he talks about new kayfabe, and there's all that. I think that part of the reason why we see such bad promos regularly nowadays is because they don't stay in character any longer than they're on TV, and they used to stay in character all the time. And I think that they're not as in tune with the improving of their character.
I wanted to ask you about this because I'm so glad you brought this up. This leads into what, okay, so Becky Lynch post this show, Survivor Series, her emotional interview, like the BET one, but really the one with Justin, I don't know what you thought. Like she, like the visceral react, like it was that real Becky, whatever her real name is. I'm going to assume her first real name is Becky.
It's Rebecca.
And whatever, or Rebecca. Yeah. I mean, she goes by Becky though. It's not a made up name. I have an aunt named Rebecca. Nobody ever called her Rebecca except for my grandfather. Everybody called her Becky and she prefers Beck. Okay. Anyway. So they did that. And I honestly, like, you know, I was kind of on the fence about her. And then, you know, I said, no, she's cool and I like her.
Yeah.
and she's won me over, but more back thing. And then you and I have talked a lot about the feud with her. And I was like, aren't they like best friends? And you're like, oh no, they're actually not best friends. And nobody likes Charlotte, blah, blah, blah. So I actually thought that was kind of a real visceral moment where that was that person talking about that match. Like, it was not the character big time Bex. And I agree with you. I do feel like it does feel like the threshold, between what's real and fake is kind of gone with the promo sometimes, because leading into Monday Night Raw, Liv Morgan did her promo on her before that 5-person match, and I actually didn't agree that they used that clip. They could have used any clip of her talking about Charlotte, like bitching about Charlotte. There were other ones where she was much more toned down about Charlotte, you know what I'm saying? But the simple fact that she did two things that I thought, whoa. She says, she uses the clip of Becky being really emotional after the Charlotte. Like, you could, I hated the match because I thought Charlotte was not good. Like, it felt like she was just trying to beat her, like, and you could tell, like, from the jump, she was not being cooperative.
She felt like she was trying to take over the match pretty much.
Yeah, she literally was not letting Becky do it. There was literally no sustained offense from Becky that whole match. I've never watched a match where the winner basically never was like in the lead. Like, she literally was like, here's Becky. It was like Charlotte beating her around like a sprinkler. Anyway,
even when Becky got any little bit of offense, it was just Charlotte getting more and more in there, and it just felt ridiculous.
Yeah, that was not a fan of that match because of how I felt Charlotte performed, because I could see, like, visually it looked like Becky was frustrated. But anyway, just specifically with this promo that Liv ran, and then she talked about how much Becky gets paid and how some of her friends had to leave. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I was like, really? Like, have you guys ran out of ideas? I felt like, or is that, because that felt real. Like, that did not feel fake. I don't know how you felt about that, Ref Marsh, but when I heard that, I was like, what? That was like the only thing I remember from Raw now. I mean, there was a lot going on, other things, but like I was like, really? So just the whole promo, and then that, like, what she said about her friends are all gone because, you know, how much, and I was like, whoa. Because I don't think any of those wrestlers get paid all that much money in retrospect to other sports and stuff.
Oh, considered to other sports, absolutely not. Because what was it? I just saw something where some dude was getting a $130 million contract with some sports team, and someone else was getting like a $350 million 10-year contract. Yeah. And the biggest ones, and the biggest ones in WWE are typically like $5 or $6 million.
Yeah. So Max Scherzer just signed a 3-year deal. He's 36.
Okay, that's not. We don't need to go into that. I was just saying, like, to be relative to the sports world, yeah, absolutely, they're much lower. Grim Reaper comes through the chat saying hello. Cheers to Grim Reaper coming through. Grim. But what I was saying in that promo, and I think it's cool that we talk about it because we're not going to recap every single segment. Obviously, there's been a lot that's happened, but there are some highlights we want to talk about. But specifically the Becky Liv one, I think the reason the line was in there is because of the gross misunderstanding by the general populace of the fan base that think that a budget cut means you have to stop spending here, and then if anything else that's there is where the money went. And budgets don't really work the way.
You don't think that was from her? Because I'll tell you what, like, even her reaction, I was like, I don't think that was part of the script.
I think it was, and I think that Becky wants it that way, and I think that Becky's also a top-level performer. I think the reason they had to use the clip of Becky crying is because the week before, Becky was mocking Liv for almost crying.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, I almost, because of, and I'll just say this, that I've not ever seen an interview that felt like a UFC fight, like that, from WWE, ever until that moment. I mean, like, I feel like Becky was in a real fight. She got out of that fight, and she felt like she was in a real fight, and she talked about it like she was in a real fight. I mean, she didn't put on a character face at all. That was that person going, this was the most difficult thing I've done. I mean, I literally fought from behind the whole time. I had no offense. The partner wouldn't, they don't come out and say she's a piece of shit for not working with me in the ring. But like anybody that, once you start learning it about wrestling and stuff like that, and you watch them go through this stuff, you're like, oh yeah, like the great matches where the fans are like, this is awesome. Like that could have gone on another hour, and I don't think the fans would have, because I was like, this is brutal. This is brutal. Like this is physically feels brutal. It feels like Charlotte's trying to beat her up in the ring and not like work with her at all. So
okay, I'm gonna stop you there because but the reason that you would use that promo is because of all those things being what I feel is also realistic. You have Liv trying to fight back against Becky. You have her point out, you cry too. And then that's what the great comeback with Becky. Like, you wouldn't understand what it's like to be that emotional after a big match. You've never had one. And like Grim Reaper saying in the chat, they're trying so hard to make Becky a heel. And that's the other thing. They have to try hard to make Becky a heel because she's a fan favorite no matter how you cut it.
It's like Stone Cold. I mean, you could make him a heel.
Absolutely. And it says, what makes someone look like a heel? ? He goes, being rich and costing other people their jobs. Yeah, being at the top make you. And Becky said that when she was first coming up, and as even the man. She said, you're a hero in the chase, but a villain in the victory. And then Grimmer says, whatever sticks to the wall at this point. Justin, let's hear from you. What do you think about all this?
See, with the match from Survivor Series, it felt so weird to me because it felt like they were trying to make it feel like a shoot after a while. Because even then if they had so much disdain for each other, it didn't feel like they were going to work a match at all. But they started like calling spots and all this other shit. And it just felt like it felt like almost like the whole disdain for each other thing was kind of nonsense, because it just didn't feel like the way they just were like the way they called spots, the way they just tried to make it seem like it felt like a shoot to me is what really just threw me off with the whole match. But Becky's emotion at the end, I felt like was like legit almost, because I don't think she was, just how much Charlotte's gotten to her and annoyed the hell out of her, that she was going to have that emotion.
Have you ever worked with someone that you didn't like and done things to make their job harder, but made it look like you did your job just fine?
Not really, actually.
All right. Have you ever experienced that from the other side? Has anyone ever made your job much harder?
No.
Yeah.
It just felt weird.
Not everybody's a sociopath, Marsh. Let me shit in this guy's coffee. I don't like him.
Right.
I have seen it done, though. I have seen it done. And
that's I think that's where you get the blurred line there of you saying like they tried so hard to make it look like a shoot, but they're clearly working together on certain things. There's a certain level where you can make someone else's job incredibly hard, but try to do enough on your own side that you can say, look, it wasn't me. I did my thing.
That match looked like a shoot to me. It
was a mess.
I actually thought it was a shoot. I mean, I'll just say it. Like, I felt like Charlotte was told exactly what was going to happen, and she didn't like any part of it. And she was going to fight on every single move in the ring. And not one time did she ever give Becky the upper hand in that match. Like, she just could not. She recovered so quick. I was like, oh my God, like, you have to play this up a little bit more. Because it looked bad because she was like, the only wrestler that could pull off you can't hit me and hurt me is the Hulk Hogan. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just walk through the thing. That gimmick was over with him. Okay, it works good for big guys for a while. And there was something I wanted to talk about Omos, but I don't want to get off topic. But I just feel like that felt like a shoot. That felt real. I feel like that match felt real. It was bad, but it was bad because you could tell like one person was working really hard to try to do an entertaining match, and one person was trying to work really hard to say I'm an impenetrable force, and you can't stop me, and you can't move me. I'm gonna probably lose to you, but like, you know, they had to throw in. I don't even know that they needed to throw in Becky holding the rope. I mean, I think she could have probably won.
No, because they did. I think Charlotte made that ending could have meant something. It could have meant something big, and I think Charlotte threw that away on SmackDown. But we'll talk about that in just a minute. Justin, what did you think though about the Liv promo on Raw?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a big fan of Liv. I think she's really been needing to step it up a lot, like especially when it comes to promos. Like, but I think this was good. To me, the whole her using the Becky crying thing didn't really bug me at all. The using the whole my friends got fired thing kind of left a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth, but I get where they came from with it.
What do you mean by the sour taste in your mouth? Like,
it just feels weird that you would use all these releases and turn them into a story again. Like, it just feels weird.
I disagree, because I think that the complaint that other people have is when they make the releases and pretend that they didn't release anybody. You know what I mean? Like, and Becky brought it up too. Like Grim Reaper said, you've got to make Becky a heel in this story, and Becky brings it up. You've let down, embarrassed your friends. They don't even work here. Liv's retort is, they don't work here because you're so greedy. Your check has to be so big that they couldn't afford them anymore, which isn't really what's going on, but it is the narrative of the internet. They say like because I saw someone post that stupid thing with they did the Dallas WrestleMania little spot show, and they put up a big title, like a foam title that had the Dallas stadium logo on there, and someone said people got fired so someone could make this monstrosity, and I was like, whether or not it was good looking or not, no one got fired. Not a single human being lost their job because the budget didn't coordinate with a big foam belt. You know what I mean? Those are different realities. And so the concept that people have, that because they'll even say it there, how could this person lose their job but they have this other person? Can you tell me this person losing their job really made it so they could afford this other thing? None of that is the actual conversation happening in a business. So they just use the narrative that the dirt sheets are perpetuating consistently to make Becky look like a bitch.
Yeah,
that's why it didn't bother me.
Yeah, so I thought it was low-hanging fruit. I mean, Justin, it seemed like he didn't like it either. So I feel like, you know, the point you made about them not saying anything about releases or them actually saying, I think it's the whole, you're going to glad hand some of the fan base, you're going to piss the other one off. I think that's just, it's inevitable. The more controversy, I think they have I think Vince actually has a flawed view of the wrestling business now. And some of these techniques that have worked for years, I think he will never come off them. And I think that they a lot of that stuff could change. When you are the standard bearer, you can do whatever you want. So like, to me, I'm surprised they don't take more risks in other areas, like long form. You know, I mean, like, why are the Marvel movies popular? People are following these storylines over the course of like 15 years now, right? So, I mean, this ties into, like, I wanted to bring up, you know, I don't know if you heard the rumor that they might be selling the WWE. Did you read that?
That's been a talking point for almost a year and a half now. People have been thinking that. It sounds
like oh yeah, it was just something that I saw in print, and they said, oh look, because, you know, one of the you know, everybody's talking about the ratings or this, that, or the other. They're the most profitable they've ever been. So regardless of whatever, the WWE LLC whatever is a Fortune 500 company that, and, you know, the people I'm hearing about, like, if Disney whatever, like, buy it, you know, that could change a little. I am going to assume, though, a lot of the people that run the business will stick around the business because, you know, they're not going to want to. Disney doesn't have wrestling people. But anyway, I just was curious, the stuff I had heard. But, like, it just feels like you probably don't need to do her salary thing in there. I actually, I'll say this. I loved it. When I heard it, I liked it. Like, I was like, this is awesome. Like, I can't believe she's
big time Bex. It works into the big time Bex concept.
Yeah, big time Bucks or whatever. I actually really liked Liv Morgan's promo.
Loved it.
I wasn't saying, I was surprised. Like I said, I don't know they needed to have the crying one, or they could have used something. That specific interview, I just thought that was such a visceral, real interview with the real person, not the wrestler. I kind of thought, oh, I'm kind of surprised they're using this again. Maybe they thought it was such good acting, because I don't think there was any acting at all in that. That was like the least acted promo ever. But
yeah, no one's saying the promo is bad. I think we all loved the promo.
Yeah,
we're just talking about the couple of talking points that people had complaining outside of what was a tremendous promo. That's the other thing that's really funny too, is that like the promo's fucking fantastic. People are hyped up about it. And at the other end of it, they're like, can I find a couple things I wasn't real pleased with? I think we can write a whole article on that one thing and not the overarching story that's been going on for weeks, or the incredible babyface boost that Liv got by saying those things. And the apparently visceral reaction they even got from Becky hearing those things, that confused on whether or not it should have been said or not. Like, I think it was tremendous any way you cut it.
Yeah, and that's what I think that's the overall theme of this episode 1 of Wrestling on the Rocks is like, you know, we have a different perspective. You're gonna skew a little bit more pot. Like, why aren't we talking about what we liked? And like I said, I honestly was just blown away by those things. And I could have been. I don't think that promo is any less effective with a different video of Becky. I'm sure they have something of her crying somewhere, you know, whatever. I thought she was gonna be like crying when she won the belt. Like I was like, they're showing this. Like, I was like, whoa. And then with, you know, as far as the money comment, I love that. I thought that was awesome. I didn't even tie it. Honestly, it didn't even make sense. You know, like, I didn't tie to the releases because, like, I've just been reading so much about releases. But speaking of which, sounds like the AEW will, you know, is going to have its first, you know, bunch of releases coming up here in the next month or so, because contracts and stuff, and they have a saturated roster, and so it sounds like, you know, some of those people.
That's what Becky did on the outside of Survivor Series, boosting Liv Morgan in an incredible fashion. I loved, because we didn't get to talk about it, the Raw before that, where the promo where Becky's like, are you going to cry? And Liv just socking her. I love how the camera zoomed in, and right as she's upset, she also starts to smile, because Becky wants this fiery Liv. Becky's doing everything she can in this program to make sure that everyone knows that Liv Morgan is not only a contender, but she's a big baby face, and this is a big fight. Fast forward a little bit, or, you know, side by side. What is Charlotte doing on the other side of this thing? I don't know how, and as much as we talk about everything positive, we're going to be a little bit negative on this one. I don't understand how anyone...
Before you go down the Charlotte road, did you hear her old man split? I've read that.
I read that they stopped following each other on Twitter, but I don't know what that's supposed to mean to me.
Yeah, that was all I seen about it too, and I have no idea what that signifies at all.
I mean, it could be. It could be that they split, but I will say that should largely be irrelevant to what you're doing on TV.
Well, but hold on, though. Didn't we have the conspiracy theory that Charlotte was trying to, like, bully her way out of her contract so she could leave and go to AEW and be with old boy? I mean, it felt, I mean, honestly,
that theory was out there for sure.
He's the most delusional human being on the planet.
It's 21 degrees outside.
Oh, shut up, Siri. She's she's either one of the most delusional people on the planet, or she literally is trying to get it out of her, you know, out of her contract. Like, I feel like her actions speak louder than words. Like, what I saw with her match, because we're still kind of, is that she was super uncooperative. And I just, like, she's a heel and she doesn't want to get anybody over.
Yeah,
like,
so let's talk about that.
No one likes her.
The program going into her with Toni, this promo she cut with Michael Cole, she goes out there and says, I didn't lose the match. The ref was terrible and Becky's not good. So automatically she's saying,
Yeah.
I'm worse. Like, so, like, no one looks good in this. So the fault is on the referee. The heat's on the referee. And now the Becky's not good. So losing to her means nothing, which also means that Charlotte losing to Becky means nothing when she could have just as easily gone out there and said, for someone like Becky who says that she doesn't respect me or my family, she sure did take a page right out of our book and was the most conniving person that day. You know what I mean? Like, be outsmarted. It's okay to be outsmarted. You got the better of me this time by being so conniving. I underestimated just how conniving you could be because I didn't think you'd take something right out of our own playbook, a Flair trademark, if you will. But she didn't. She said the referee's stupid. So if the referee was stupid and that's why you lost, that means you couldn't outsmart the stupid referee. So now you're dumber than a dumb ref.
I love the logic, but dude, you're not wrong. Like, you should.
That's how I felt.
I feel like whoever is writing for her also wants her to be like not successful, or she's just doing it on her own and no one will work with her, because I will tell you, like, it feels like everything you said initially, I was like, yeah, why didn't you just do that? Like,
yeah, why didn't you just
honestly,
say that? Because then you go, oh,
I think it's turned into just I think that whoever's writing for her, even if she's doing it on her own, I think she thinks this is gonna work, and that's not.
There's no way. There's no way, Justin. Because there's no way unless she's completely lives in fucking Rainbow Land, or she's on so much drugs that she just doesn't have any concept of her surroundings.
She might because of her ego. Her ego is so up. Is it
really in real life? We think she's that out of it. I mean, if that's
she might be.
I feel
she
so
might
bad.
be, because to me she just feels like she has this big ass ego on her that it's just. She's got the whole thing of, oh, my dad was the greatest of all time, because every time you turn around, you hear somebody talking about that Ric Flair is the greatest of all time. I, personally wouldn't put him in my top 10 if I actually did it. But she sees all that and she's like, well, that means I'm the greatest. Like, immediately, I don't have to do anything right. I'm just Ric Flair's daughter. My ego's here. Like,
also
it's just...
on interviews that she's done where she's not in character, even when she's not in a program with Becky, she has been saying for the past 2 years that she made Becky famous. Like, in all genuineness, she's like, I spent 18 months laying on my back to make a new star. And so she has always taken credit for Becky, even when she's in these interviews where she's talking about her real life family and stuff. And I don't think she's been working the whole time. Maybe she has. I don't believe it. So I do think that the ego could be there. But then you have Toni Storm come out, and now she tells Toni Storm, I don't even know who you are. And then she outsmarts Toni Storm, making her look stupid by throwing a pie in her face twice. So now, even if Charlotte beats Toni, you beat a nobody who's dumb. And you're someone so dumb, you can't outsmart a dumb referee. So now everyone looks absolutely stupid in this program.
Yeah. I don't understand what they're doing there. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, I actually thought Tony's intro and stuff was great, and it was awesome. I go, I don't know who this is, but she's cool. I want to see more of her. I like the little thing, and get her. Go get it, girl. You're spunky, and you're gonna do something.
Yes, exactly. Everything Toni brought to the table was good and elevating, and then Charlotte started speaking and brought everything down.
Yeah, it is a little bit like she's the black hole of human emotion on the screen. Like, it is a little bit like that. Like, I did want to say this, but I am gonna start referring to Charlotte Flair time on Raw. And I love Pat, but even Pat, I think Pat's like, I don't know what to do with this because she's not likable. I'm like, if fucking Pat can't make you likable, you're not likable. That's pretty. So like, I'm going to start referring to that time as, I got to go take a shit. It's time to go take this is the time I can miss watching this. I don't need to see it. And I'm not going to go back and watch it. That's what I'm saying. Like, if nobody likes what you're doing, like, nobody, and I don't even know, like, is she selling merch? Because, like, even if I'm a little girl, like, I like everybody on the roster more than her. There's just not, and again, I'm not trying to be mean to her. Like, I'm sure she's a great person in real life, whatever. I mean, she's not a good person if that ego is that, if that's her real ego. Like no way. Like you are a delusional person that has.
I don't think it makes her a bad person. I don't think she does things maliciously hoping to destroy people, but I don't think she's looking out for anybody. I think because the idea is that like Becky even talked about it in that Ariel Helwani interview. She's like, because Charlotte's thing was like, if I was a man doing this, would anyone complain? And Becky's like, no one, man or woman, is behaving this way but her. And said people go into these programs trying to see how can we make magic where everything is amazing and everyone enjoys it. Where Charlotte approaches things like, how do I make sure I am the only one people are talking about? She's not trying to create magic with everyone. She's trying to do what she wants to do for her and herself. I don't think her thought is, I think I can destroy this person by not working with them. I think the thought is, how do I go through this program and still make sure everything's about me and I don't look weak for even a second? Like, it's not a back and forth. It's not an overall, let's make this whole program great. It's, I need to make sure that I am talked about as the greatest of all time, no matter what. And I think that, so I wouldn't say I think that she's a bad person. I do think that there is every possibility her ego is a little out of control and it's making some of these segments not as good as they could be. Not as good as she's capable of being.
So it's I'll just say this again. You're an artist in breaking this down, because like, I just was like, oh, this is not, this is cool. Nah, no, it's terrible. And every time it goes, it's terrible. It coincides with Charlotte doing what you were saying. You just contextualized it and made it so vivid, and it's like, oh yeah, that's why, and then like, it's so funny to hear how you would do it differently, because it would be like, oh my god, she would actually be doing well, like she would be likable almost, you know what I'm saying, or
at least understandable. Like, I think that even an asshole heel who says that I'm the best and I got cheated can still acknowledge that someone out cheated them and make them both look good. You know what I mean? Yeah. You cheated better than me that day, and that's wild because I'm a really good cheater and I couldn't do it. But you out cheated me and I'm good at it. So I'm going to have to be a better cheater than you next time, right? But that's not what she did. She goes, you're a bad cheater, that referee is stupid, and I'm so dumb I couldn't outdo either of you. And you're like, the fuck is this? Who's better here? You can't even lose to Becky Lynch, arguably the biggest star in the entire wrestling industry. Mainstream appeal. I think Roman and Becky are constantly fighting for number 1 and number 2. And I think that any given month, it switches back and forth. And you can't even acknowledge that a loss to Becky could mean something.
Well, wouldn't it help her too? Wouldn't it help her character if she actually lost? Like, then, you know, the little girl that does like her, that likes her confidence or whatever. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, how you described it, if you're doing all this negative stuff around your character and nobody likes you, you're literally doing more detriment to your character than if you were doing things, just, you could still be doing them along the same lines. That's what blows me away, is you're not even trying to get her to do anything niceties or anything. It's not like trying to turn her into a baby face. I literally think if you could turn her into a baby face with what the damage she's done, I would say you're the greatest writer of all time. Because, like, how could you take, I mean, I've never seen a character where, I mean, you know, if Seth Rollins is a heel, there's a lot of Seth Rollins fans. Obviously, Roman Reigns is the heel of all heels right now, the bloodline, and there's a lot of people wearing the head of the table shirt and whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say that some of those demographics are women between the ages of 29 and 30.
It's understandable. It is understandable. I've seen that man myself and been like,
yeah, like I get why he might be popular. Outside of the fact that, because, you know, I personally don't think he's all that great in the ring, but whatever. I mean, he's the best on the roster, he says. So, but anyway, I just, I don't know where I was going with this, to be honest with you. I just,
that's all right. We'll chime in with Justin real quick. Justin, what do you think about everything we're throwing out here?
Yeah, just, there's so many things. Like, I've just been so off Charlotte. completely. Like, she ruins everything, like, lately for me. Like, that's why I can't get into matches with her, no matter what it is, and I feel like everybody else has to suffer for it, and it sucks, because when this match with Toni happens, like, am I really going to be into it at that point? Like, it sucks. Like,
I'm real nervous about it, because I think that Toni should absolutely take the title off of Becky. Or not Becky. Toni should absolutely take the title off of Charlotte. Because I think that there's so much potential for Toni, and I think Toni being made to look like an absolute idiot. Charlotte grabbed a pie in front of her and slowly walked over and put it in Toni's face a second time. And I'm like, fucking come on.
Saying, the first time I understand, because it was quick. She got out of the ring, she grabbed the pie, and then Toni slid out and she hit her with the pie. And I'm like, all right, I understand. Now you go over there and you do the same to her. But she just stood there. And then Charlotte walked over and just nonchalantly put the other pie in her face. And I'm like, she looks like an idiot just standing there. Like, hit her in the face. Do something. Like, don't just stand there.
They're not building the fan base.
I've seen on Twitter today, like, the day that happened was, well, now everybody in the IWC's got some material to work with. And I'm like, you freaking nasty, thirsty freaking people. Knock it off.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, I mean, it's just, I'm nervous about the program because I think that Toni's going in, giving everything she's got to make it seem like something that we should be excited for. And Charlotte's making sure that no matter what she does, she makes Toni look absolutely stupid. Mm-hmm. And I don't want Toni coming out on the other end having to rebuild like everyone else who's in a Charlotte program. No one's come out of a Charlotte program and not had to completely rebuild their entire stature.
Becky Lynch. Right.
Which made Becky Lynch into the man, because she was the one person who figured out, she was the only person who figured out how to get a Charlotte match out of Charlotte that makes people focus on Becky. Because Charlotte has been this number one for so long that people are nervous of trying to make the match about them.
Yeah,
you know
Charlotte
what I mean?
looks, especially if I had never seen her wrestle before in Survivor Series, I would be like, man, this is the most selfish person I've ever seen in the ring. If that's the first match you come in and watching her, like, I would, and it sucks because like the women's stable is like some of the best wrestling that's going on is them right now. And that's
Toni Storm is so good that before she even signed with WWE, she was one of the independents that I was following before there was a big independent boom. She was someone who I saw in the UK on a little clip and was like, she's really good and has a ton of star power. Like,
is she Australian though?
Yes.
Yeah.
You sounded Australian. I was going to say, I didn't know, but like, I can definitely tell the difference between a Cockney and an Australian.
Yeah.
There's 17 other like
so
accents.
much so that when WWE put together NXT UK and they created an NXT UK title, I referred to it as a joke as the Toni Storm title. Because I said, clearly they made this title so they can sign Toni, bring her in and make her a champion. She was the second person to win it. Well, the first person to win it was Rhea Ripley, and then Toni took it off Rhea. But I was shocked because I think the title match for the title was Toni and Rhea. Rhea won, and I was like, this makes no sense. I thought it was the Toni title. They eventually got there, but
I was a little, we're talking about all these problems with Charlotte, and I told you I was a little bummed that I felt like some of the female roster from SmackDown, I was going to miss getting to see Bianca Belair and blah 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 all the time. And you were like, yeah, but Raw's a bigger show. They got like more time. And I was like, oh yeah, that's true. Well, all the good ones are on Monday night. Does that I'm not saying Sasha Banks, and there's some really good women on SmackDown still, but like, it feels like they're just the ones that can tolerate working with Charlotte because she's going to get her airtime and they're going to give it to her. And
wait until Sportsbeard gets to see Bailey when she comes back, and Asuka.
It's going to be
both of which I'm familiar with, but I have not seen them wrestle at all.
Oh my God, you'll love both of them. Amazing.
So good. Jeremy in time in the chat says, that's why I'm so uninterested in Charlotte, anything Charlotte is involved in, because I know half of the program is only focused on making herself look like a star, and that's what it seems like. But not to rail on it too much, I am excited about Toni being in a TV program. Not excited about this one. Yeah. If they got cojones on them.
Are they wrestling day one?
I think so. I think that's what it is.
I don't really know. They haven't really been announced yet.
No,
That's a good point.
I thought they did. I thought they announced the day one stuff, or they were. Yeah, again, they're doing a really piss poor job of promoting their own events.
That's a good point. That could even happen next SmackDown. But I'll be honest with you, I think Toni should take the title because I think the only way you come out of looking that stupid is by winning clean in the ring.
Yeah.
And then Charlotte having to answer for that. But the thing is, if Charlotte can't lose to Becky and make it look like a big deal, she's not going to lose to Toni and make it look like a big deal. You know what I mean? So either way.
So this is there's one match we know of, Justin, and it is Big E, Seth Rollins, and
Kevin Owens
KO in that triple threat for the WWE. Now, somebody said, I saw something, I think our friends at WrestleMania, okay, I don't know, and they get there from like 6 different 100 sources, but that Vince is not convinced that Big E can be the WWE champ and yada yada yada, and that this might be the time that he removes it from him, and like Rollins, it'll probably be Rollins, right? Because so I also saw this today. They said, well, they might make it KO because his contract is up at the end of January, and like, hey, KO, we'll let you be the WWE champion, like, and he could pull it off, right?
Oh yeah,
like he could pull it off. He seems like a super capable guy, and he
was a Universal champion for an entire year.
Yeah, so like I'm asking you guys, like when I say it's like a question, I just came back this year. SummerSlam, I wasn't even back for WrestleMania, which I'm really bummed out, But like,
I definitely think even if they give it to KO, I wouldn't be surprised if they gave it to Kevin Owens, but like just to try to keep him. But I do have a weird feeling it's going to end up on Rollins. I don't know why they don't see Big E as champion material. Like he's done, in my honest opinion, had a better reign than Kofi did. Kofi to me still has this notch in it that I just can't give it like too much of a thumbs up. Big E's for some reason I can, because it's given me a lot to just go, this has been like really good, and I want to see him go longer with it. Like he's all the media like stuff he does. Also, like I don't get how you don't see that and go, yeah, this man definitely can be the face of your company. Like,
yeah, I agree. The guy looks like an Adonis. He's awesome in the ring. He's super like positivity. That's such a good message.
Charismatic.
I love the guy. Yeah, he's walking charisma. He's handsome looking man. Like, I haven't seen him do a bad promo. Like the guy's awesome. I will be severely let down if they don't let him be, in the mix. He doesn't have to retain it, but like immediate rematch, wins it back or whatever, I wouldn't mind. But I will tell you, and I wanted to ask you guys this because it's related to this. Do you guys feel like Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins are kind of like the Triple H and Stephanie? And I feel like they kind of have that pull there.
Yes, actually.
I think they absolutely have that pull because I think that they're doing things in that company that they haven't seen since Triple H and Stephanie, since they haven't seen since Stone Cold. I think the man shirts sold like the Austin 316 shirts did, and they didn't expect that to happen. I think that they absolutely have a ton of pull because they have put in so much and they are turning out so much on the other end. Those people are passionate. What I love about this particular match, if we're going to talk about it.
Well, that's what I'm just saying. Do here's my question to you. Do you think that because of that pull, Seth Rollins will be the title? He'll win it out of this.
Are you asking if I think that Seth Rollins has the political pull to say he wants to be champion, or if because he is viewed so positively by the company that they'll put the championship on him?
I think the political pull thing, but I agree with the second part too. I think you could answer both.
Yes, but
okay.
I think both too.
Okay, I don't think that Seth Rollins cares. I think Seth Rollins cares about an awful lot. But I don't think Seth Rollins is looking at Big E as a champion and saying that should be me. I think Seth Rollins loves being a part of what he's doing. I think he loves every minute of what he's doing. This dude, they have it in one of the Chronicles or the 24s. he wins the Universal Championship. He goes out and does a spot, and the crowd boos him. And he goes backstage and cries. And he goes, I don't know why they're... Seth Rollins. He goes, I don't know why they're booing me. He's like, I do so much. And he goes, and I'm trying so hard. And he goes, and they're just booing me. And he's like, and I don't know what to change. And I think that... I don't think he feels he has to be champion to be important. And I think that that's very evident in what he's done the past, 2 years since he's been champion? I don't think he would ever poll to say, make me champion. I think he would try to prove that he should be champion by his work rate. But I don't think he would ever ask to have the title taken off of someone who's put in a ton of effort and say, put it on me. I don't think he's that type of a guy.
I think he's got the pull to do that, but I just don't think he wants to do it.
That's fair. Potentially he could be in that conversation where he could potentially have the power to or pull to say it should be, but I don't think he ever would speak up like that. Mm-hmm. However, I do think the company is super behind him. I think the company has every reason to be super behind KO. He's always been a team player and performing on such a high level. And I also think that the dirt sheets don't know what they're talking about most of the time, and I don't think Vince McMahon believes that Big E's not doing his job. I think that everyone understands exactly what Big E is doing. He gets huge reactions. Big E versus Drew had the crowd booing Drew, and I don't think Vince McMahon didn't hear that. And I think Vince McMahon thinks Drew is one of his biggest baby faces. I think the dirt sheets are being worked, and I think that what we have here is a triple threat of 3 people with a ton of believability in walking away with that title, which makes this match interesting.
Well, but any validity to the thing where they like, hey, we want to keep you Kevin Owens? Like,
sure, that could happen for sure. I think they did that with FTR. FTR even talked about that when they said they didn't want to renew their contract. One of the things they said is, we'll put the titles back on you guys. And they said, that's fine. We've had the titles several times before. That's not why we want to leave.
FTR.
They're a tag team that you haven't seen.
Okay. They're great, though.
They're fantastic. They're like callback. They're kind of like old school Brainbusters. But they...
tag team I've never seen. Did you see that Jeff Hardy wants to reunite with his brother? And he said either at AEW or WWE. Didn't care.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Me neither. But I can definitely see. I always thought that Jeff, to me, originally was trying to just hold out until he had the opportunity to leave so he could go be with his brother. But even I can say lately that Jeff Hardy's looked better. So even if his brother came back, I don't see WWE blackballing him to where they're never going to want him back because he left to AEW.
Yeah, no,
but he's talked a lot of shit. He's talked a lot of shit, which could be.
No, now we're talking about Matt Hardy now, the guy who's not in WWE.
Yeah.
Okay, because you said Jeff. So, okay, this is kind of related to what happened in the ring too, because the whole Sami Zayn thing, we thought Jeff Hardy may have gotten a chance at the Universal title, and to be honest with you, I was kind of intrigued by it. I was like, yeah. For sure.
Crazy thing is, I thought the ending was almost a botch. Because I thought Jeff was supposed to land on the apron and then he fell off anyway. I was like, whoa, wait a second here.
Nice.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think Sami Zayn was supposed to win. I mean, I think that was part of the plan, but I know what you're talking about. I just that was a real interesting thing. I just was curious.
Because his contract did run out. Jeff's contract did run out since Matt has been in AEW, and he re-signed with WWE. So I got the impression that he wasn't as concerned about going to WWE and tagging with his brother. But if he's saying he'd like to do that now, I thought that he had said...
Jeff saying he wants to do.
That's what I mean. I thought that Jeff re-signing was a sign that... Because he'd said when he signed this one, that he wanted to finish out his career in WWE, because was the whole thing.
Maybe he knew he already said that on the record when he said this, and just to keep it ambiguous for the wrestling fans who want to complain about everything, it sounds like they may not have remembered he said what he said, years ago or whatever after he signed his WWE. I'm going to assume the money's better at WWE, the travel, the accommodations, everything is better than any other wrestling thing. And so I'm gonna assume that if you give any wrestler a choice, they probably want to be at WWE over AEW. You know, I'm sure people would debate that because of like creative stuff or whatever. But I mean, if you get paid more and you get better accommodations, you know, why?
We've heard that some of the contracts that the AEW is putting out are crazy contracts, and that's why some of the guys are going there, because it's crazy guaranteed money.
Oh yeah.
The WWE, yeah.
That's just the mold of WCW. I mean, that's what they did.
Yeah.
Turner did. We're just pay you set money, and these guys were like, you know, getting used to being paid by the event and the merch and all that. So like, and you know, obviously wrestlers are probably lower paid. Probably the only comparison is a UFC fighter, right? I mean, as far as money, not getting paid a lot of money and this, that, and the other. You know, I mean, now with the television stuff, like that's where the money comes in, right? So yeah, I mean, that's the other thing too. Like, I think if you just try to compare, because you were talking about WWE versus other sports, but other sports, there's like all these other things. Like the WWE is basically, it's its own entity. So like if it goes to an arena, it has to rent that arena and pay for that, you know, it has the arena cost. And so, you know, it's a lot different than like if it's a sports franchise and it's their arena and stuff like they don't move. They're playing around the country and stuff.
And then one of the things that AEW does too is they allow their talent to make money in any other venue that they want to make it. So I do think it's a bit peculiar that people are on these AEW contracts saying they're making great money, but they're making a ton of indie shows. And I just can't imagine why a wrestler would do that, being honest. You know what I mean?
I think it's all about money. I think the wrestlers can, if they could do it in the WWE, they'd be doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like if they could go do.
But if I'm making $750,000 a year, why am I taking a bunch of $3,000 side gigs?
Aren't some of those Japanese things that, I mean, some of those are not like those guys in the Mexican shows. I think some of that money is like better than the stuff in America. As far as
some of them, yeah, but a lot of these guys are just doing random, like a Vegas show or some show in Ohio or some random meet and greet. The meet and greets, I guess. I get the meet and greets because you're not taking bumps, but like the people who are having wrestling matches in some of these ones, I don't get, because I'm like, you're making $3,000 to $5,000, maybe 10, and you could get seriously injured.
Well, let me ask you this: if you're one of those guys that has to do those other shows because you need the money or want the money, isn't it also about building your brand so more people see you out there wrestling? So it really could be just about building your brand. So
that's true too. It's a lot of guys who aren't on TV regularly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like if it's you're like, you're like, oh, I saw that guy at a house show and he was awesome. And then when you see him on, you know, Raw for the first time or NXT or whatever, you know, you're like, oh, I know this guy. He's cool. I mean, you know, and that's the thing too. Like, you know, I talked about the development of, you know, the young talent and stuff like that. And they created the NXT because, you know, the regional stuff was kind of falling apart for the, you know, WWE being the monster it is, you know, probably hurt a lot of the local smaller shows for a long time. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure it didn't help when it basically gobbled up a lot of the regional stuff. So, you know, I don't know. It's interesting. We kind of got off topic, but I was, you know, how do you feel about Jeff and Matt Hardy? I'd love to see the Hardy Boys back. I'd love to see them retire in the WWE as a tag team, like champions. It would be so awesome.
Hall of Fame for sure.
Well, they're in are they not? I think they are in the Hall of Fame.
No, they're not yet.
They will be. They will be.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah. To be honest, I have no desire to see them as a tag team again, personally. I think everything I've seen from Matt Hardy in the past 2 years, 3 years even before he left WWE, it wasn't something that you go, this guy should keep wrestling for a long time. When he was offered a position backstage, I remember hearing that and thinking, I think that's a great role for him. And he said, I still want to wrestle. He goes to AEW to wrestle. And every single match I've seen since then, I've thought to myself, why is he still doing this? Like I've not once thought should keep wrestling. Jeff is putting on stellar stuff. Jeff's still doing great, but I don't think Matt's got it the way that Jeff does, and I think that Matt's a better mind than he is a physical wrestler. Justin, what are you going to say?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I don't know what it is about Matt Hardy lately. Like, his AEW stuff has been awful. Like, ever since his broken stuff, nothing has come close to that in Impact. Like, nothing's come close to that. Now, even nowadays, like, it's like I don't really. Yeah, I think I kind of agree with the whole. I don't really know if I really want to see him back as a team again, but I do think that they eventually will end up in the Hall of Fame together. But
Yes.
What about this scenario? What about if like the MVP Bobby Lashley thing, right? What if Matt is kind of like Jeff's MVP and comes back as like a manager, and then like he gets?
I don't think Matt's ego would have let that happen.
Okay.
Matt would never play second fiddle to Jeff in that way. He's always thought he was. He's always thought he was the underrated one and the better one, and I just think that he's a little delusional that way. My problem also is that with all these guys who go to AEW, when WWE says like we think that you should take a less active role in ring, and they go, I got a lot left in the tank. They go to AEW, and they become a parody of themselves, and they become a joke of themselves, and they're not putting on the matches they used to put on, with the exception of Christian, who's been doing good, but he's not important over there at all. He also was offered a contract by WWE, but not fast enough. When he made his return at Rumble, Tony Khan in just a couple days offered him a major contract, and he took it before WWE had a chance. But the conversation was going to happen. But I'm saying when WWEs are telling these guys like, we don't think you need to wrestle like this anymore, and the guys are like, I think I do. They go to AEW, and then you go, I don't know if they should, to be honest.
There's a lot of, not to go down the AEW rabbit hole, but like Christian specifically, I've read and seen and heard like the WWE was not good to him. Like they were kind of downright nasty to him. And, because they didn't like his look or whatever, but I mean, he was a damn good wrestler. And
I don't know, he made millions of dollars and was a world champion several times.
Hall of Fame? I thought him and Edge were both in the Hall of Fame.
I thought he was too.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand. So, yeah, Christian, he's in the Hall of Fame.
Christian, yeah, they're both. Christian's in the Hall of Fame.
no, actually, I don't think Christian is actually.
Well, Edge is. Christian's
Edge
not.
is. No, I don't think Christian is. I think
How
Edge
is Christian not?
I thought he was. Let me look it up right here.
Yeah,
Christian.
I thought he was too. Now we know
he is.
Huh?
Yes, I don't think he is. I think him. I think it's just Edge.
Hey, while you're looking that up, what about that fan that like attacked Seth Rollins?
Oh man.
Whoa! And then was there more to that story? I heard like one of the wrestlers put out, "Hey, don't follow. This is not me. If this is not a check mark, there are people that are posing as me and catfishing people, and like robbing people."
He fell for a catfish, and I don't get.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, he fell for a catfish that was using Seth Rollins as his profile, and apparently he like gave him a bunch of money, and I'm like, first off, why do you think that a WWE superstar is going to?
No wonder that's why that guy was pissed. He thought Rollins stole a bunch of fucking money from him.
Yeah.
Oh man, you know what? When I first saw it, I'll be honest with you, I thought it was somebody that was developmentally disabled, and I was like, oh, it's just somebody that's not, and they can't help themselves, and he thinks it's real or whatever, and I was like, no big, it's not a big deal.
His response video, I thought was like, that's when I thought there was something wrong up there.
A fan tackled a WWE as he left the ring in an unscripted and shocking attack triggered by a catfishing scam.
Yep.
Oh my God. Is there more to that? No. Like that's all
Not
I
really.
know. Oh, here we go. WWE wrestler Seth Rollins was tackled to the ground by a fan in an unscripted and shocking attack that left the fighter terrified. Elijah Spencer, 24, jumped the metal barricade and tackled Rollins as he left the ring during the live broadcast of WWE Monday Night Raw at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. The attacker and Rollins tussled on the ground until security and WWE officials broke up the fracas. And there was a lot of them too, right? Like real quick.
Yeah.
The New York Police Department spokesman told ESPN that Spencer was subsequently arrested and charged with attempted assault and attempted violation of arts and cultural affairs. WWE, in a statement, WWE takes the safety of its performers very seriously. The individual who attacked Seth Rollins has been turned over to the NYPD and will prosecute it to the fullest extent of law. I'm wondering if the WWE doesn't change their stance on this because of the, you know, on Tuesday, Rollins told TMZ that he was shocked by the incident, but fortunately he wasn't injured other than some swelling of the lip. It's terrifying, brother, he said. It happened very quickly. I was mostly just reacting and hoping that our security would come and do their job, which they did very quickly. And it did. I felt like they were good. I don't think Rollins has anything to complain about. And then was just trying to detach and move on. Hope that everybody is okay. He did an awesome job, by the way. Seth Rollins, if you didn't like him, I thought he kept his, like, he didn't let the people know it wasn't part of the act. And I know everybody there with all the videos, they're like, that shit was not part of it. So there's more. I could read more, but it doesn't talk about the fans catfishing.
Former WWE wrestler Chavo Guerrero said something about, he was like, remember when the wrestlers were tough back then? And I was like, okay, I get where he's coming from with this whole thing, but we're in an age where you can't do that kind of stuff. Like, come on.
Well, also, if you have a perceived trained fighter beat the shit out of a fan, there's going to be a lawsuit. And do you want your lawsuit with your top guys? I heard it even speculated that over the IFBs, because the referees got involved so fast, that it was the referees before the security, that it could easily have been get Rollins out of there, because if we're going to have a lawsuit, it needs to be against a referee and not a fucking top guy.
Yeah, Rollins couldn't have done anything to that fan. That's how quick the refs were on. Yeah, the refs were in there. I mean,
to get Seth off of the guy, not the guy.
Also security. So, like, I felt like the refs are part of the security, right? Like, some of those dudes are probably like ex-military, like all.
It was refs, agents, and security.
Yeah, but I mean, it was so quick. Rollins could have done nothing. He was blindsided by that guy before he knew what would. I think initially he wasn't sure it wasn't part of it anyway, because you know I'm sure that they surprised the wrestlers with like who's coming out, because they want authentic things. I imagine they don't tell them what's going on all the time, right? So like that could have been like a part of the show. And I think once all the security was on top of Rollins before he could do anything anyway. So I would never call the man not a man because he didn't hit somebody. But one, he didn't have an opportunity to. He couldn't. I mean, he could be the fastest puncher in the world. I actually looked like Rollins got some licks in on the he
had that guillotine on him real good.
Yeah,
but like
the guy in that guillotine. Yeah. So like, I don't know what. Chavo Guerrero could shove it up his ass. I don't think anybody could have done better than what Rollins did.
Yeah. I think Rollins handled it amazingly, because you know what he also did? He was in his spot when they came back from replay. He was where he needed to be on the top of the ramp to talk shit to Finn Balor. If you watched it just from a production standpoint, you wouldn't know that something went wrong there. He got in and got out and got back to where he was supposed to be and handled it like a fucking pro. He was awesome.
I got nothing but that was incredible things to say about Rollins. Like he handled that so well. I was like, gee, good
and back in character.
And that kind of happened on the broadcast too. They obviously they're going to try to, it's like a naked fan run out or whatever on the field. They won't show it anymore because they don't want to give it any attention. And so I know the WWE's had that policy for a long time. I'm sure there's fan interactions we miss all the time. Right. So, I mean, just watching Edge come out was kind of cool. He's like casually, talking with people and stuff. But yeah.
Oh, and then when Seth comes down at the end and he goes like this to the sides, like, anyone else coming out?
Dude, he did a good job, man. Like if you are giving him a hard time, you do not like anything or anybody. Like that was a difficult situation. You have no idea. I mean, that guy could have a freaking knife, like
exactly.
What a scare. I mean,
I felt with the amount of stuff we saw online, I really felt like how insecure are you as a human or man or fighter to where you saw that and your thought is, well, I would have handled it better. Fuck
Oh,
off.
I never thought that. I was like, good God, I go, he handled it great.
I know, but all these guys were speaking up, being like, well, I would have, they don't ever jump me. And it was kind of like, okay, like how much, like how insecure are you that you have to make this conversation about if you're tougher than Seth Rollins in that instant? I even tweeted something like, honestly, how do I even know you're a tough guy if you didn't tweet about how you're tougher than Seth Rollins? Like, the fuck? Like, you come off like such a fucking pansy when you see that, and your whole thought process isn't, did Seth handle himself all right, or I'm glad everyone's okay. Your thought process is, I should tell the world that I would have been beat the shit out of that guy. No, you wouldn't. First off.
What's Charlotte Flair's opinion on it? I wonder what she said on the subject.
Oh my God, yeah.
I want to know what Charlotte thinks on that one. Yeah, dude, he handled it fine. And in fact, you know, like, it's probably a good thing he got a glimpse of the guy because if the guy had blindsided him, I mean, he really seriously could have hurt him. So I'm glad Rollins is okay. And I was actually, you know, like when that shit went down, I was like, oh my God, like I saw it on Bleacher Report. And I was like, I don't think we'll see Rollins again for the rest of the night. And then when he came out, I was like, oh, he's okay. So like,
he's a fucking
they did it when it happened live. They cut quick. Like it was like you saw him hit him and then they cut it. Yeah. And they went to Balor. They went to Balor selling in the ring. And then as soon as they came back, he was up on the ramp, like talking trash to Balor, and I'm like, you guys did good.
Yeah. No, I mean, like. So obviously, when you're watching it, Justin, it's real time, right? Or for the most part, it's real time.
Yeah, it's real time.
When I'm watching it, it's like 4 hours after you've watched it.
Oh,
so
wow.
like I already I have to stay off my phone or I won't. Like I'll know exactly what's happening, and so I don't want to know what's happening. I don't want to be spoiled. But I saw the video.
When I watch AEW pay-per-views. If I can't ever watch it the night of, I stay right off Twitter and I just wait until the next day and watch it.
Yeah, the pay-per-views are not a problem because they come on. They come on when you're watching them, so it's like not a big deal. That's the one thing like we can all sync up on because it's all the same time. Reason Raw and SmackDown they won't. I have to have like a VPN to watch it your time, which would be fine. I mean, I might end up doing that anyway, but. Yeah, so sometimes I'll be watching hockey or something and I'll see, fan attack Seth Rollins. So I actually knew about the fan attacking him before I watched what else happened. But I stayed off, but I paid attention because I watched the fan thing didn't spoil anything for me for the show. So anyway, that was I was so...
In the chat, real quick, Jeremy in Time says, Edge is in the Hall of Fame, Christian inducted him, but isn't in the Hall of Fame himself just yet. And I also saw that Christian and Edge inducted the Dudley Boys. So I think that's why I thought, because I've seen Christian at the Hall of Fame before. It's because he's inducting everybody else. And Grim Reaper says, I love how Becky was right there ready to pounce, backing up her man. Yeah, as the camera was kind of going around in the back, there's a few shots, you could see her standing right behind everything, like making sure everything was cool. But
yeah, well, I mean, I would be freaking scared. Like, that's crazy. Like,
oh yeah, insane.
We talk about fan interaction on every show, and like most of that shit is from the 70s and 80s and stuff. So like, it's so insane nowadays. Again, that's why I thought the guy was mentally deficient. I actually was correct because somebody tricked him to thinking that he was a WWE superstar to give money. First of all, what did he give him money for? Backstage pass?
And it was through like the gift cards thing. Oh, get me like an iTunes gift card and need $500.
Dude, like what are they teaching kids in school now? Like I get spammed with so much stuff now. It's like the legit stuff looks authentic. Like I just literally will not do anything anymore. Like sign up for anything like that.
And, well, he was through. He must have got like in contact with him beforehand because he apparently there's messages from like Hangouts, from like Google Hangouts and stuff. Yeah. So it's like he's from there. So
well, I hope this kid Elijah Spencer doesn't get in any real trouble because he's a victim too. Like he got victimized not by Seth Rollins or the WWE, but like the WWE getting out like that. That's what I was saying. I think the WWE got out in front of this a little bit, but I don't remember who the female superstar that was like, hey, if this is the only thing I have. I don't have anything else. Like if somebody's asking you on this site or blah, 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 that is not me to all my fans. Like they're putting out PSAs like don't get catfished by, some dude that was going to steal money. I mean, it's, it's like to me, anytime you're dealing with internet crime too, it's international, right? Because they obviously can be done anywhere. So you get in the FBI and stuff involved. So I feel like it's a real, that kid was a victim and he was victimized. And if he was victimized for anything over $500, it's considered a felony. So, I mean, that's a little light, but still, I mean, it's, but still like, I feel for the people involved there, and I hope.
Yeah, I was kind of staying offline about it a lot too, because when it was all coming down and people were just trashing him, my first thought was, if this guy has any kind of mental issues, that's going to come up, and it's going to look real bad when you keep saying, beat the shit out of this guy with mental illness.
He's developmentally disabled. I thought he was like he could have been mentally retarded or something. He could have had Down syndrome or something like that. And then if that happens, everybody that's like, I would have beat his ass. Oh yeah, you'd beat up a handicapped kid. Like, you can hit a lady before you could, beat up a handicapped kid. Like
the guy's response was the only thing to me that made me think that there was something up there not right.
Well, obviously there was something.
The fan footage of him walking out, I felt like the look of him on his way out, I was like, I don't know, something about him looks like there might be something off. And so I didn't make any comments because I thought, stay on that side. But at the same time, we're in a world now where kayfabe is so diluted that nobody doesn't think that there's a difference here. And like you said, his belief was that he was talking to the real Kobe Lopez and not Seth Rollins, and he got shorted out all this money. So he was going to attack the guy.
His real name, Kobe
exactly.
Lopez.
And that's what he said even. He kept referring to him as all like, Kobe Lopez owes me money. He said that he got booked there by Goldberg and Vince McMahon, and I was like, okay. So something's not right.
He pulled the whole, he did it for The Rock, he did it for Rikishi, he did it for his bloodline, and I'm like, there's something up there wrong.
Yeah, there's something going on here.
Yeah,
but like
if he was victimized, so he's definitely probably not all there mentally.
And that's what I'm saying is that we're in a world now where if someone's heated enough to jump over, it's because there's a mass confusion somewhere or something not clicking right. Because we all know, generally speaking, and we're not in the world where kayfabe is so blurred that people were jumping the barrier to stab motherfuckers. If they're doing it now, something's not right. And so I thought it was really weird that people were like, I'm going to beat the shit out of him. And I was like, should we take a step back and realize that there could be something going on here a little bit more?
How many rednecks went to the Stone Cold feud though with Vince being like, I'm going to shoot Vince. Like, I'm going to shoot Vince and end all of Stone Cold's problems. You think like this going to happen. And I guarantee you, like, they had metal detectors back then and just would catch these yahoos at the door. Like, because there's still always, like, there's all kinds of videos of the top 10. Anyway, I knew we had to talk about it. But we were talking a little bit about Christian and the Hall of Fame and stuff like that. And then I got to give props to Becky Lynch, too, because we talked a little bit. She called the fans out about the women's match. I think you and I talked about this during.
Oh, I loved that.
I was a big fan of that. I was like, if you want better matches, then be better. There's a responsibility to the fandom too. Like, you're there in person and you get to see, and you're doing this is awesome chant because you're seeing something badass. I love it. I appreciate it. It helps me as a viewer at home really focus in on what you're seeing. Because if you're seeing it in the ring, if they're seeing it in the arena, then, we're obviously should be able to see it on TV.
Yes.
But, your distraction and this and that, and you're this, and your wife's asking you that, and blah, 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 and you had too much ashade, and you're blah, blah, blah. And so, but like, for me, I really like a superstar that's really respected being like, hey, come out. There's some fan etiquette. You don't have to be like me or be fans of me, but like, You know, if you're seeing something great, don't be inflating beach balls and doing the fucking wave and shit. The wave should have been banned a long fucking time ago. You should do jail time for initiating the wave. Yeah. So, you know, watch what you came to see. You know, like if it's, you know, it's invented by soccer fans that, you know, at the halftime, because they, you know, were cold. That's how they move, you know? So like, I just, for me, it's like, okay, you know, like it's not, there's nothing, I don't do the wave. Like if somebody starts the wave at an arena, we went to MSG, yep, not doing it. I made fun of every girl wearing a Sidney Crosby jersey though. So.
But yeah, 100%. If you're going to be the type of person to do a wave and chant CM Punk during a women's match with 10 top stars in the women's division, so it's not like nobody. It's not like you're watching a preliminary match. You are watching 10 of their top stars and you're participating in those things, then I don't want to see you ever fucking tweet about how long the Queen's Crown matches were. Like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, I was about to say the Queen's Crown thing was a prime example. If everybody got PO'd about that, I don't know why in the world they had to be like jerks for the 10 woman tag match. Like that just was ridiculous.
I mean, and the women are, it's still, you know, like there's not equality in the ring. The men get way more time. Like even the big women matches are still a third less the time of the men's matches. You know, like.
Well, if you're talking strictly numbers, they also have they have like 3 times the amount of men on the roster, which is a whole other thing.
Well, I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing either. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to start a feminist movement for wrestling or anything like that. I'm just saying look at the numbers. It's not close. Very rarely do the top women's match the top men's match. And I would argue I would rather watch the top women's over the top men's, because the top men's stuff is kind of played out, and it's, you know, and the women's stuff is what sort of intrigues me. I think they're doing a better job in the back of the house, their promos, how they're trying to build the things. Again, we talked about the Charlotte enigma. That's just this big giant piece of shit that we have to deal with. And it's, you know, as fans, it fucking blows. But everything outside of her little fucking black hole of sucking all the joy out of the women's division is all great. You know, like Becky, she's getting people over. I mean, I was going to tell you, like, Bianca, I mean, she's a poor Polson player. Like, she's just a part-time, you know, like, she's not even part of the story right now. And she doesn't need to be. And she didn't you could, like, I was like, this is how you act in the ring. Look at what she's doing. Now she's trying to help get Liv over. Like, she's not even, it's not even about her. Like, and it like that feud was just ended. Nope, moving on. Keep on trucking. Like, I love it. It shows to me what kind of person Bianca is. Yeah. Which I think we all knew she was awesome. And you'll root for her again because, you know, but let's have Liv have a run. I do think too, like I've been saying, the WWE's been putting a lot of faith in having, I think people need good news, right? We got Omicron and COVID and blah, 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 and global pandemic and supply shortage and supply chain issues and Republican versus Democrat and blah, blah, blah. So like, it's like, I would just say like, it wouldn't hurt to have a baby face that's getting over all the time, you know? Yeah. Having somebody that's a happy, you know, Corbin without all the douchebaggery. You know, somebody that's, I got this and I'm kicking butt. New Day is somewhat that, right? And Big E, if he's with New Day, I think you could play that up more. But like, I would not be that reluctant to shy away from that storyline if I was in charge of things. So I think also Bianca being on top the way that she was and going all the way to the main event of WrestleMania, she's just ready to go. She's ready. You know what I mean? Like, at any given time, you put her back in the title picture and you're ready. Like, they're building right now a division of believable champions at any given time. There's no more specifically, like, I remember I was talking about the mid-card of SmackDown being incredibly impressive because the mid-card of SmackDown had Seth Rollins and Cesaro and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And you're like, your mid-card is main event talent. And that's not to say
that they're not being treated well. It's saying that you've built such a strong roster that even the ones that are not in the main picture could believably get there at any given moment, and they're doing that with the women now, and I love it.
Yeah,
They're building.
I agree 100%. And that's, I mean, it's, again, like I said, it is about being a fandom of that. And I'll just say, you know, I bring it up because I would rather just see more of the women's matches. Let them go a little bit longer. I'm not saying like, it doesn't mean that you have to give them equal time or whatever. I'm just saying like the product I'm seeing in the ring, in the squared circle is really good. It's really high level. And they work really well together. It's super believable. Outside of the Charlotte versus Becky thing, everything else has just been creme de la creme. As far as I'm concerned, the matches I go away. I mean, I'm not saying 9 times out of 10, but usually when I'm like, oh, what matches were my favorites? Oh, the women's. Like it's almost always the women's stuff. You know.
So
like,
before, oh yeah, 100%. I think we all agree. I mean, we've even talked about how the women is what dragged you back into it all. I think before we run out of time, though, not that we're like out of time, but I know we don't want to be here forever. Let's talk a little bit about the Edge and Miz promo that a lot of people were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I'll start with Justin. What did you think about this and the comments that Edge made? Some people are trying to speculate that the only reason this promo was even booked to happen was as a reaction to how well received the MJF and CM Punk promo. There was a 20-minute promo on AEW. How well received that was. So therefore, this was in retort to that. Tell me what you think about all that.
I thought it was just as great as the Punk MJF promo. Again, Edge bringing up John Morrison getting released. Kind of didn't feel like it was needed. I don't know what it is about Miz to me. Like, I'm so 50-50 on Miz, but Miz feels like his promos are the same freaking thing every time. It's, I've been here forever. Look at me, I'm a Hollywood A-lister. My wife's hot. I did Dancing with the Stars. I did this. Where's my respect? And it's always the same thing with Miz. Like, I feel like we never get a new promo from Miz.
Do you notice he makes those goofy, like, frog faces all the time? When he thinks he says something really smart or good, he's like...
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? When he gets all smug.
He's channeling his inner Nicholson Joker from the Batman.
Yeah.
Freak bat. Wait till they get a load of me.
Yeah. So people were pissed off that Edge made mention that Miz left his partner high and dry and he got released, and also were mad that Edge said you're living in people's minds rent free when they're using your name for a cheap reaction on other shows. I didn't hate it. Go ahead.
I didn't mind their back and forth. I thought it was fine. I didn't think anything was out of bounds. It was a little sad. You know, the whole John Morrison thing is kind of sad anyway, right? His wife is on the roster too or whatever, and she got released so, you know, like, just kind of how they buried his character at the end. I felt bad for him because Miz was doing the thing, and I do think Miz kind of leaving killed that character. I think Morrison might be still on the roster if Miz was there and he wasn't doing Dancing with the Stars.
It almost felt like they could have done that feud earlier before Miz left. They could have had Morrison beat him to send him off to Dancing with the Stars instead of them having it happen just to immediately take him off TV.
Yeah, that's what was kind of bum. I feel like that character, for the short time I was back, seemed like it had enough gravitas to kind of let it die a really gentleman's type death. It didn't do it. They didn't do it for me there. I didn't have any problem with the promo they cut, though. I mean, like, I had more to say about the Beckys, so like.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't have any issues with it myself, and I also didn't have any issue with, because I thought it was kind of funny, like, because everyone was talking about how their whole thing was AEW uses the history of WWE better than WWE does, and that's why they bring it up all the time. But I heard a counter argument that by placing WWE squarely in position to be in all of your promos, in every important promo, that you are in a sense referring to WWE as almost godlike, that they are the end all be all. And by saying that MJF was a less famous version of the Miz,
That was
doesn't
hilarious,
make
by the way.
It was funny.
I liked that. I thought it was hilarious.
sure, but it doesn't make anyone in that feud seem more important. And then
What
when
do
the
you
Miz
say?
shows up on Raw, you go, oh, here's the Miz, the one that CM Punk was referring to in a better light than MJF. You know what I mean? Like,
said,
I think it
"You're
does.
the Miz
It does
Light?"
complicate. Yeah.
Did he say you're the Miz Light or something? It was good. I actually thought it was good.
He said you're a
Again,
less famous version of the Miz,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is which is fine, but I don't
Well,
think that it
isn't
makes the
that-
Miz look like less than. You know what I mean? You're not
you
shitting on the
It
Miz
made
there.
a lot of sense.
Well, yeah, I don't think he was shitting on the Miz either. He was shitting on MJF. But did you also think that that was accurate? I thought it was very accurate.
No, I think
You don't
that I think there's a
MJF
lot of
is kind
things.
of a rip off of the Miz. He feels like he's a little bit of a rip off of the Miz.
I've always referred to MJF as he reminds me so much of Miz.
Okay.
If Miz had his attitude, I feel like I'd probably like Miz a little bit more.
So
But
MJF
you're not
is
meant to like either of them, I thought, right? The idea is, I don't think that MJF is Miz Light at all, because I think MJF is absolutely afraid of heat, and I think that Miz isn't. I think that the entire gimmick of MJF being, quote, not a gimmick is such a gimmick that it gives it all away. And I think that MJF doesn't have nearly the career history to even begin that narrative. You know what I mean? I think
Is it
that
an
the things that
insult,
Miz has
though?
accomplished.
Is it an insult to the Miz then what CM Punk said? Or
No.
should the Miz be like, I'm,
The crowd chanted.
who's MJF? I thought, didn't the Miz respond and he was like, I don't know who MJF is or whatever? I thought he
Sure.
responded, yeah.
Sure, but if I could finish the sentence. So the idea is that by saying MJF is the less famous version of The Miz, you're already saying that the other show is more popular and that Miz is more famous. So you're already putting WWE in an elevated light, not in a secondary light. And they typically try to take the route of we're better than WWE. But here's one where they actually said it in such a way that it didn't make WWE sound bad, which I thought was kind of interesting. I wasn't like shitting all over either of those promos, but I did think that when Edge said they're using your name to get a cheap reaction, that was identifiably saying it's less than. Because using your name to that fan base was a cheap pop. It was no different than saying, I don't like the hillbillies here, which for the record is the problem I have with MJF, is he doesn't have any actual heat getting comments. He has cheap reaction comments. He'll say, I slept with your mother, or there's nothing but hillbillies here. I'm smarter than everyone here. You're all poor. He uses the old tactics from the 60s and 70s, but not even as clever as like Andy Kaufman. Andy Kaufman brought out a bar of soap and a roll of toilet paper and said, I'll teach you guys in this area how to use them because there's no way you guys know how to use this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, he's not even on that level. So by saying that you are getting a cheap reaction on another show was kind of like, they don't have much going for them anyways. But I thought it was cool. I thought it was neat. I liked the idea that they're recognizing each other, but I also like the idea that on IWC, they said AEW doing it, awesome. WWE doing it, this is stupid. And I was like, that's funny.
That was really dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's, if you get into the comments, I see a lot of pro AEW over WWE, but like, I feel like, again, perspective is, AEW is the new hot girl in town, right? Like, everybody wants to date her. Nobody knows anything about her, except for that she reminds you of a lot of your favorite, because this, that, or the other. Did you see the Taker interview with Kevin Hart, cold as balls?
I didn't see the whole thing. I saw the commercial for it. Looks fun.
Okay, it's on YouTube. But anyway, I wanted to bring this up kind of as a crescendo to the show.
Go ahead.
I think Kevin asked him, name your Mount Rushmore of wrestling. I thought we could do it. And I will give you his without going into the whole detail. He said Andre the Giant, okay, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, and Shawn Michaels. Okay. So I didn't write mine down. I figured I'd ask you guys what your 4 are.
Okay, before we do that, I'm going to hit the chat and then we'll do that. Just so we can be respectful to the chat. And if you guys want to join the chat, twitch.tv/wrestling on the rocks is the easiest, quickest way to go live and be a part of the show, derail the show. One of our favorite derailers, Grim Reaper, said, Miz is so much better with Maurice. They are a great package. I will say, as much as I don't like the Miz in general and don't like his segments, when he came out with Maurice, I felt like something was fresher here. And I felt like this promo here did not annoy me. It wasn't as bad as Miz TV stuff. All the stuff with him and John Morrison, I just hated every time. I wouldn't even watch it. This one, the two of them together with Edge, I was like, this does feel better, more visceral. I did enjoy it a lot more. So I agree with that. That them as a package seemed to make a difference to me.
To think just because I think Miz is repetitive doesn't mean I didn't like it. I just think Miz is just very repetitive with his promos a lot.
I agree. I don't think he said anything new, and I didn't like his frog face.
And then I'll say this though, as someone coming back, the Miz is one of those guys that you've seen, and I've seen him a lot in other things.
Yes,
because he's out there. So yes. I've never even seen him wrestle because just coming back. So my break, Justin, is really like 2003-ish. I stopped following really till now. Yeah. So, and then I wasn't like a devout follower even in the, but I watched it because of Stone Cold and stuff. So anyway.
And also, if I'm AEW, I'm not going to say that MJF is a cheap version of, or a less famous Miz. I'm going to say he's the Miz that could have been. I'm going to say that he's a faster rising star than the Miz ever was. Miz struggled for years and years and years to get respect. It took Miz 10, 15 years of not getting injured and having record-breaking title reigns for anyone to acknowledge him, where I would say, MJF, you're a fast rising Miz and you're better than he was, and I still don't respect you as half as much as I respected him. You know what I mean? Like, talk a little bit of shit on there, but make MJF sound like a star. You just said, MJF, you're a fucking podunk version.
It was probably a little bit of laziness on Punk's thing to even bring it up, but I do, like I said, don't you think that I haven't watched really any AEW, but I've seen this, that, or the other. And to me, what I've garnered is MJF does seem like he's kind of like the Miz. It's that whole cut from the $1 Million Man cloth, man, that they all should have to pay that dude fucking tithe.
That's true.
Using his shit that's 35 years, 40 years old.
But you could build him on the way of the teardown, and this was just a flat teardown. You could say you're a better Miz, and I don't even like you half as much as I liked him.
Yeah, I got it. I think Punk took the easy way out, probably. I agree. There, but I thought
Grim Reaper. And then Grim Reaper says AEW wrestlers mention WWE characters' names. WWE wrestlers never mention AEW wrestler names. And I think it's because AEW is happy to take the fines. And I think they're happy to poke the bear.
Names, but he freaking referenced a lot of them, which is like, but Punk freely dropped names, but MJF didn't drop names. And I went, really? MJF, the guy who's supposed to be Mr. Shock Promo, and he freaking didn't. He won't drop names, but Punk will. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, I agree. But let's go ahead and let's do the Mount Rushmore thing of Sports Beard. Sports Beard, so you don't have one ready to go. You want to start with Justin?
You want me to give you Mark Calloway's again one more time?
No, I know his was. It was Stone Cold, Rock, HBK, and Andre.
Okay.
Justin, who'd be your top four Mount Rushmore?
Well, my first one would be the guy who was on the Kevin Hart thing, is The Undertaker.
Yeah, he's a hard one to keep off. Yeah,
he's always been. I've never been a person who will make a list of greatest of all time and all this other stuff like that. But I'll always say that the greatest of all time to me is always going to be The Undertaker, no matter what.
I feel like he's one of those names where you almost have to caveat, let's talk about the four greatest of all time, but let's not talk about The Undertaker because it's just unfair. Because I agree. There's no way you cannot talk about Undertaker being probably the single greatest character and story arc of the entire industry.
So Taker is he's the Crazy Horse Memorial that's right by Mount Rushmore?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he would have his own,
Yeah, I put him in my Mount Rushmore. Justin, I don't think you finished. You said Taker was your first.
It'd be Taker. more than likely Shawn Michaels, because I'm gonna go recent. And I'm probably gonna say John Cena.
Mm-hmm.
That's very fair.
And one that I think a lot of people probably wouldn't put on there is I'm gonna put AJ Styles on there.
Okay.
Yeah, he deserves to be in the conversation for greatest ever. I think that the fact he's not brought up a lot is frustrating at the very least. I would say that if I'm doing my Mount Rushmore of my all times, that it would be a little bit different because I would entertain the argument of why other people would have a different 4. But I'll tell you, if I'm putting my top 4, I'm not even gonna HBK doesn't even get a breath. Like he's not even. Yeah, there's 4 other wrestlers I would watch every match of theirs before I watch one singular HBK match easily. Let me see real quick. Grim Reaper. Grim Reaper's got his Mount Rushmore. He says Austin, Undertaker, Hogan, and Cena because they are all generational.
Right.
Yeah,
That's good.
That's good. I will say that I'll put Undertaker on my Crazy Horse Memorial because I think it's a little unfair. But I would say that my Mount Rushmore would have Bret Hart. It would have Mick Foley. Yeah. It would probably have Cena because I do think that Cena's 15 years of being the top guy should not be scoffed at. Because, I mean, even though you have Stone Cold and The Rock, both of their runs were 6-7 years. They didn't have half the run that Cena had.
Oh,
they didn't.
Stone Cold was like 5.
Exactly.
Really.
But I probably would put Austin on there as well because I do think that the rewatchability of a lot of his matches and the intensity of those matches, I think, is there.
He's on there too.
Yeah. But I would say that AJ Styles should be in that conversation. Like, if I'm putting on best Cena matches of all time, 2 of those matches have AJ in them.
Yeah, I know that I hear a lot of reverence when AJ Styles is mentioned. And so, and I hear it from people that I'm like, oh, I respect that person's opinion, both of yours. I respect your opinion. And to hear the reverence that's talked about with AJ Styles, it is like, oh, this guy's an OG, man. Like, I haven't really seen much from him. I mean, he's good with the Omos thing is really good. And then I was going to say, I think Taker said something about Omos, or somebody said something really like
Taker.
Like Andre, what?
Yeah, Taker said that Omos is the closest thing we've had to Andre since Andre.
And he was like, wow, I was blown away by how much you just see that really made that dude's day. And he probably is really feeling a lot better about what he's doing. And it really made me actually appreciate a lot more of what he was doing, because I was actually a lot critical of that whole gag, because I'm like, oh, it's also another $1 billion man, Ted DiBiase thing, right? He has Virgil or other things, but yeah.
Here, write this down real quick. 2 matches that you should see is the John Cena AJ Styles SummerSlam match and the John Cena AJ Styles Royal Rumble match.
What years? Cena Styles, what was it? Royal Rumble and what?
Rumble was 2017. The SummerSlam had to be 2016, right? It was before then. Yeah.
2016. And what year was the Royal Rumble?
2017.
Okay.
Yeah. Watch those 2 matches because those are the two of the greatest matches Cena was ever in. But let's hear yours.
I put AJ up there because I've followed him since his TNA days. So
I love it. I love it.
I've seen him beforehand, so
I love it. That's the great thing. It's your perspective. Like I did mine. I didn't do the Crazy Horse Memorial because honestly, if I was picking the Crazy Horse Memorial, Stone Cold would be my Crazy Horse Memorial.
That's fair.
I picked my 4. But I picked Stone Cold. I picked Orton originally, but I think that could be changed to John Cena. But I just feel like with the longevity,
good.
Taker and then for me, The Rock has to be in The Rock transcends. There's not, if you go greatest of all time, when you start talking about GOAT, in the wrestling thing, to me, and Ref Marsh has said this so much lately when we've watched that stuff, and we're thinking that And I read also that like Reigns is going to write out his stuff and he's not going to wrestle after this contract is up, which is the end of the year of next year. His contract is up at the end of 2022. So we only have like a year left of him being in the WWE. So, you keep saying he talks about how he's the greatest of all time and stuff, but really it probably is The Rock, right? And reality and popularity and everything. Who doesn't know? I mean, since Hulk Hogan, what wrestler? I mean, Stone Cold is there. Stone Cold is there for sure. Stone Cold could have been, had he wanted it, I think, to be as big a star as The Rock.
Sure. What's your favorite Rock match?
Well, it's got to be a McFoley one, right? Those
Maybe.
were the best. I mean, those were the best. I mean, obviously the one with him and Stone Cold is really good.
They had 3 at Mania alone. But Justin, if you had to pick a favorite Rock match, what are you going with?
Who, me?
No, Justin.
The one with Hogan.
Hogan?
Yep.
Okay. I'm just wondering. The reason that because Grim Reaper's in here says, are we talking all wrestling Rushmore or WWE Rushmore? And Grim, I challenge you to tell me that there's a difference. And then he says, if it's all wrestling, Ric Flair can get thrown in there too. But to be honest, I don't think I'd still put Ric Flair in there. Nothing to do with what he's done lately. He just isn't one of my favorite to rewatch. And that's not a knock on him. And then
That's
he
the
says,
thing I like about the Mount Rushmore talk is because everyone always has a different one, and that's the thing I like about it.
Yeah, and I think that it's all fair.
I had The Rock.
Yeah, and Grim Reaper says AJ Styles can be considered for all wrestling Mount Rushmore, but not WWE. And I also disagree with you there too, because I think AJ Styles' best career moments have all been in WWE. I think he had a great run leading up to it, but I think he was on a different level when he got there and what he's been doing since then. But the only issue I have with The Rock, why he wouldn't make it on my Mount Rushmore, is because he had such a high level charisma that he kind of went out there with a cheat code. And he did a lot of things that I don't think were beneficial. I don't think looked very good. He wasn't that great of a wrestler in general, but he had the charisma and the ability to control the crowd. And if that's all you need, then that's all you need, right? But I think the people have also sensed him.
You're saying, in perspective, like the rock bottom and the people's elbow, anybody else does those without the charisma of it being the rock bottom and the people's elbow. Obviously 2 simple moves to pull off in the ring too, like super simple, right? So like, you're like, well, there's not really a lot of it it doesn't feel very
you don't get lost in it. You always remember it's a great like even the way that The Rock sold Stone Cold Stunners. He would like flip over, twist around.
He oversold the shit of them.
He did.
He oversold the shit of them. He did.
So you'd watch it and you laugh, but you don't believe it. Like when you watch Bret Hart or Vince McMahon take a Stone Cold Stunner, you go, "Oh fuck, that move's devastating."
He might have killed him. He killed him. He broke him in half.
Yeah. But you watch The Rock take a Stone Cold Stunner and you just laugh and say, "It's all goofy. None of it matters. Whatever. We're all just here to have a good time."
That was a little bit of The Rock.
Look at the first one on. Look at the first one on Vince. He botched it, but he still sold it like he died.
Yeah.
You know what though? Isn't that a little bit of The Rock's character though? Like fucking with Stone Cold, because like Stone Cold was like legit serious. Like it's so funny that The Rock did the Walking Tall movie, because that was Stone Cold could have done the Walking Tall.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like Stone Cold was literally the personification of the Walking Tall guy without, the hacksaw. Jim Duggan was that too, right? Or Walking Tall was, kind of a basis for that character, but
100%. 100%. But I also don't think that it's wrong for anyone to throw him on there. That's just the only reason why I don't throw him on there. Is because when I rewatch his stuff, I go, this is goofy. And when I see people do stuff that's too much like The Rock, I'm like, it doesn't work with you. You don't have that level of charisma. You can't get away with this shit. You know what I mean? Like he was living life on a cheat code, which puts him on a different stratosphere as well. But why I don't have the same rewatchability for his matches that I can get lost in like I do some of these other guys,
So would you change the Taker as your crazy horse, put him on your Mount Rushmore, and make The Rock the crazy horse?
No, because Undertaker personifies what it takes to be WWE, or what wrestling really is. And The Rock was just a fucking flash in the wind. He was this tornado that burst through and everyone said, what the fuck was that? And it changed things forever. But it wasn't the end-all be-all personification of a WWE superstar to me, other than the fact that his charisma was through the roof. You know?
It's so funny to me. Honestly, The Rock looks better now than he did when he wrestled.
100%.
It's so ridiculous how much better shape he is now. And I understanding that a lot of that is the road and the life you have to live on the road. You're not eating, you know, as well or whatever. He can eat like a king now. And, you know, rightfully so. I have a lot of respect for the man. Like I said, I'd vote for him if he were president. So any day. I agree with you. I have to have him in my Mount Rushmore. And exactly what Justin said, I feel like it's so great to hear everybody else's perspective, because obviously a lot of it is if you're 30 or younger, you don't even know who the fuck Ric Flair is. I mean, you've seen him around and shit because he's been doing stuff into his 70s now. And the woo is Ric Flair, right? Like when I watched wrestling, it was still regional. Yeah. You know, the stuff that we would see was still regional before Hulk Hogan and stuff was before WWE. You know, so I don't know, man. Like, I like hearing what everybody else's perspective is on who they think, like the AJ Styles thing. Like, I liked it because it was different. It was something I was the one that had The Rock, you know, and, you know, I said Randy Orton. You know, I do think Cena should be on there. It's like, it's so hard. If you ask me to take somebody off, I couldn't. I think I'd have to have The Rock, Stone Cold, and Undertaker on there for me, those three. And then you could debate Orton, Cena, AJ Styles. I love that we all had something different.
Justin, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I think I would end up switching probably Shawn Michaels on there. I'd probably put Austin on there because it's Stone Cold. You can't really.
He changed the business in a whole other way. See, the difference between the way The Rock changed the business and Stone Cold is Stone Cold changed the business in a reality-based fashion. People just believed in his character, where The Rock changed the business in a showmanship kind of a way, where you could just be so charismatic that people just didn't care if they believed anymore. And I think those are two distinct differences in how people watch wrestling nowadays, too. And I've always been more of the make me believe and less in the whole, but it's all just fun and games, which is fine. But I find myself more attached to the stuff where I go, I believe this, than stuff where I go, it's just silly, it's for everyone, we can all just goof off. And I go, okay, but it's harder for me to believe, and I enjoy the believing. I enjoy being kayfabed. I love it when I'm wrong. We talk about it all the time with Kevlar that we want to get a bottle of Old Crow and say that we're definitely sure that this is how something goes, and the second we're found out we're wrong, we got to take a shot of Old Crow. We eat crow, and we love getting worked. You make me believe, and I'm not, and it's not real, and I'm a happy person. You know, I love being fooled. But anything else that you guys want to throw in there, Justin? Was there anything else you want to say about any of
that? Again, like the good thing is about also with the Mount Rushmore or even the greatest of all talk. There's so many other people that you can throw in there. You can throw in Flair. You can throw in Hogan. You can throw in Eddie Guerrero. You can throw in Randy Orton.
You can throw in Brock Lesnar. He deserves to be in that conversation. He's done a lot.
I had Orton on my list, but
Macho Man.
Yeah, Macho Man.
Yeah, you can go back to the NWA days, start talking Dusty Rhodes. Like, there's people you can bring up for sure that have every right to be in those conversations. I'm glad you threw AJ Styles in there because I feel that him and Seth Rollins get looked over a lot when you come down to like just quality of work. And I think it's not fair. I think AJ should be talked about more often in the greatest of all times. The way he's able to do what he does with what he has is incredible.
Well, in 10 years, they are.
Yeah.
They are, Rough Marsh. They're going to be. I think if this show was on 10 years ago and we were saying what we were saying about Stone Cold or The Rock or even Undertaker, it'd be like, you're fucking crazy. You don't have Hogan and you said Bret Hart, and I didn't say Bret Hart, but I agree. I didn't argue 1 second that Bret Hart shouldn't be on there. I mean, honestly, there's probably a top 10. You couldn't do it without top 10 because, like, you ask the wrestlers, and they're all like, this guy, who's the old guy, Harley Race. I hear that name all the time. But like when I was coming up, people were like, oh, fucking Terry Funk. Terry Funk was the guy. Terry Funk. And then, he kind of resurfaces in AEW with Mick Foley and stuff like that. So like honestly too, like the Beyond the Match shit, that was kind of the first time you ever kind of saw what the fuck was going on behind the scenes. Right. I mean, until then they were like, hey, it's not real. It's real. What are you talking about? Like, okay.
And you could arguably put guys like Paul Heyman on there. The amount of stuff that Paul Heyman's done for the wrestling business in general.
He should be on there. Vince should be on there. Vince should be on there. Triple H. Wouldn't even say Triple H. Triple H could easily be. That's why I say it's almost got to do a Mount Rushmore for who the founding Mount Rushmore, Harley Race and Terry Funk or whoever. And
Mount Rushmore by decade.
Then you got the 80s coming of age, Mr. T, or Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant. Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant should be on the Mount Rushmore. I mean, like I didn't have them on mine, but if you said they're going to be on there, I'd be like, okay, like I'm not going to complain about that. I mean, Hulk Hogan has reinvented himself so many freaking times. He's come out of, he should call himself, the Phoenix. He's come out of the ashes so many times.
This thing with Hulk Hogan is nobody can ever say, as much as everyone thinks he's a shitty freaking person, right? He still can never say that he didn't do a lot for the wrestling business.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't know anybody that knows Hulk Hogan. It does seem to be like he's not the most fan friendly, but I've seen some stuff with him and kids that are like adorable. So I don't know. Like, I know there was a little controversy with him and some other stuff too that like it doesn't have anything to do with wrestling. So, that's what I'm asking to judge. I mean, he was kind of the first. Andre and him were the first kind of big, celebrity wrestlers. That you like. Oh yeah, Hulk. You knew who Hulk Hogan was. You knew who Andre the Giant was. Yeah, Roddy Piper too. Like Roddy Piper should have been on mine. I should have had Roddy on there. Honestly, I could probably take The Rock off, but like Roddy Piper should be on. So do you talk the '80s or because also Macho Man. How do you get Macho Man on there? He should be on there. So like, there's so many. I just feel like he's great.
And one of my hot takes is I think Roddy Piper's a better promo than The Rock. I feel like that Piper's promos were always more believable for The Rock, and The Rock's promos were always designed to sell T-shirts.
Your head still hurts from seeing him hit whoever he hit with that coconut.
Snooker.
That shit looked real. That's back when they thought it was. So
absolutely.
For sure.
Well, guys, I'm glad you came through and had a drink with me. I think we should all get back to our lives here. JustinTime probably still hasn't even had dinner yet, and he's fresh off of work.
Nope.
So we appreciate that. We appreciate you coming through. We appreciate Kuro coming through at the very end here and giving us a little Dolph Ziggler turkey, it looks like. That's what it looks like in there.
A Dolph Ziggler turkey, apparently.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. But, guys, we will be back tomorrow night. Me, Miss Amanda Jane, Crybaby Clump. We're going to break down more of that CM Punk and MJF promo, some AEW, some NXT 2.0 on a brand new episode 1. But we want to say thanks to JustinTime for coming through, coming in and taking over for one half of the Ironics.
Shouts to Kev, just because he's awesome.
Fuck you, Kev. Stay away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, stay away. You can find Justin at JustinTime211, the Don of our side of the IWC, the curator, as it were, JustinTime211. And with me, again, thank you to Mr. Sportsbeard at Beard_sports. Thank you for coming through, man.
No problem, Graf Marsh. Good to be here, man, as always.
And thank all of you for coming through and having a drink with your drinking buddies here at WOTR, the show, Wrestling on the Rocks, where every show is our first show. And we will be back tomorrow night for a brand new episode 1 right here in the dive bar of the IWC. Guys, that's last call.
Cheers.
Hey, producer lady here. Thanks for tuning in. Continue to support us or buy us a drink. And review our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to us. Cheers!
I would never have a drink with wrestling on the rocks.